Hello everyone and welcome to another video. If you're into racing games, you must have considered at some point to buy a racing wheel. How it usually goes is that you get one, you play with it for a couple of weeks, and then you get bored of it. I went through this cycle multiple times, and that's why I'm on my 4th racing wheel set. What I'm saying is that unless you're really into racing games, you should avoid spending too much money on a racing wheel set. This is the PXN V900. It currently sells for around 150 Canadian dollars on Amazon, and if you want to get a used one, you can get one for around 70 Canadian dollars. So let's check it out, but before we do so, please consider subscribing to my channel so I can make more videos. PXN is not a well-known brand, but they've been around for at least 4 years, so they're not an entirely new company either. They seem to be selling a wide variety of racing wheels on Amazon Canada, and in fact, they seem to be the only company to do so in a budget price level. But the V900 isn't their cheapest wheel. That would be the V3, and despite its shortcomings, it seems to be really popular. I made a video about it around 4 years ago, and my conclusion was that it was better than playing with a keyboard. It's a 900-degree wheel, which is what you would get on a regular steering wheel. If that doesn't work for you, there's a switch on the wheel, so you would get 270 degrees of rotation instead. The V3 that I tested only offered 180 degrees of rotation, and that's not great. It's also compatible with a wide variety of consoles as well as PCs. In the box, aside from the wheel and the pedals, you get 2 U-clamps, a bunch of suction cups, 2 user manuals, as well as a bunch of cables. The pedals are the exact same ones that came with the V3. It's a 2-pedal setup, so you don't get a clutch, but aside from that, it's completely serviceable. There are non-slip pads on the bottom, and you can also extend the footrest to improve the overall experience. I placed the pedals on a carpet, so it doesn't slip at all in my use case. Its build quality leaves a lot to be desired if you compare it with more expensive sets like the G920, but if you compare it in its price range, it definitely gets the job done and is pretty decent. The wheel is definitely better, although it's a little bit on the smaller side. The sides of the wheel are wrapped in a non-slip material, which improves the overall experience. The buttons feel nice to the touch and press, so no complaints there. We have flappy pedals on the back of the wheel and they feel cheap. There's some play to the wheel when you push or pull it on one side. You notice this when you're completely in the zone, and although it doesn't really affect the overall experience, it makes you think if it's gonna break in your hands. The rest of the wheel is well made, and there's even a pass-through USB port as well as a 3.5mm headphone jack on the back. You have 2 ways of mounting this wheel on a surface. You either use the U-clamps or the suction cups. The good thing is that they're both included in the box, and the bad thing is that the suction cups in general, this is not particular to this wheel, suction cups in general do not work well for racing wheels. The U-clamps on the other hand, they work completely fine. There are 18 buttons on this wheel and 2 shift paddles. By the way, this isn't a force feedback wheel, instead we have springs to center the wheel. There are 2 vibration motors to give feedback to the user. I started things off with Assetto Corsa. In this game, the vibration motors don't work, so it's a bit hard to understand what the car's doing. Obviously I can see what's going on by looking at the screen, but the feedback you get on the wheel in real life, it's a big deal. So it's important that you get some feedback from the wheel. Aside from that, at first glance, everything is fine. However, after playing for around 10 minutes, I noticed something. No matter what rotation angle you set, you have a set number of reporting points. Let's say we have 270 points, and we set the rotation angle to 270 degrees. This means that the wheel will report its position every time you rotate the wheel by 1 degree. This sounds decent in theory. However, when you set it to 900 degrees, this means that the wheel will report its position when you rotate the wheel 3 degrees. This results in a quite significant dead zone and small corrections harder to make. Say you're taking a corner and you want to rotate the wheel just a little bit. This is something that could happen in real life, but it's a bit hard to do with this wheel. But aside from those 2 points, using this wheel on Assetto Corsa has been a pleasant experience. Do keep in mind that this isn't a professional racing wheel, so flaws and shortcomings like this are understandable. Things obviously got better in Euro Truck Simulator 2. I wanted to try out this game as it's a completely different kind of simulation. The vibration motors worked here whenever I drove on an unpaved surface. Also, as I didn't need to make as many small corrections, I didn't really see that flaw. Again, as it's not a force feedback wheel, you don't get that level of realism. So if the car is not moving, for example, when you rotate the wheel, it should not center itself. Obviously this wheel does because it only has springs. I'm not complaining about this, as the fact that this isn't a force feedback wheel isn't a secret. I'm just telling you what you should expect. And overall, what you should expect is a pretty decent wheel for the price. Honestly, I did not think that it would get as realistic as it did. Looking at the price point, I was expecting something like the V3, but a little bit better maybe. But this is actually leagues ahead of the V3, and it's not that far behind a G920, especially for a beginner. And do keep in mind that I said that you will most probably get bored of this in a couple weeks or months, so there's no point in spending a lot of money. This is obviously valid if you're looking for a new racing wheel set. If you're looking for a used one, you can get a G920 for around $200, which is, in my opinion at least, a great deal. Or if you want a used PXN, you can get this for around $60 to $70. So in my opinion, you should buy used, and you should either pay $70 for this or $200 for a G920. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking this video, checking out my other videos, and subscribing to my channel. Take care.